بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد. To mawqif or not to mawqif, that is the question. In the previous episode we have given an introduction about Jarh wa Ta'dil, and we have spoken about what Jarh wa Ta'dil really is in essence. And we have spoken about the fact that Jarh wa Ta'dil is all about judging whether a person who transmits a hadith primarily, but in a wider sense knowledge of the deen, whether this person is reliable. So the point of making ta'dil means which making tawthiq is judging the person to be reliable, and this is based upon two matters. Number one is his integrity. Number two is the accuracy of his knowledge acquisition, conservation and transmission. And we have looked at the conditions for each one of these two criteria, integrity and accuracy. And we have looked at the matters that corrupt any one of these two conditions. And we have asked the question, how come nowadays in the West, but not only in the West, everywhere in the world, but obviously we're talking about the situation in the West, how come we have people that fulfill all the conditions of integrity and accuracy, however, they are being made jarh of, and whoever questions, leave alone disagree with this particular jarh, is written off along with these particular individuals. And on the other hand, we have people who don't fulfill any of these two conditions. They are seriously corrupt as far as their integrity is concerned, and as far as their accuracy is concerned, well, they don't even fit the criteria to be judged as having something to be accurate about. However, these particular individuals are being made ta'dil of. So in this particular lesson, we shall look at the conditions that a person must fulfill in order to give rulings in matters of Jarh wa Ta'dil, and that will hopefully shed some light on this question that we have just raised. So when we speak about the conditions to make Jarh wa Ta'dil, the author says, rahimahullah ta'ala, page 47, شروط المعدل والجارح. So he says, يشترط في المعدل والجارح أربعة شروط. We have four conditions that have to be fulfilled in order for a person to be allowed to make jarh or ta'dil. Number one is that the person himself be a person of integrity. أن يكون عدلا. Number two, أن يكون ورعا يمنعه الورع من التعصب والهوى. Is that the person be wara'. Now the word wara' is al-wara' is usually translated or is considered a synonym of the word taqwa, which we translate as piety. However, when we use wara', we mean a specific aspect to piety, and it is the aspect of being cautious, which means that you're not only refraining before the red line, rather you are looking into matters and into the consequences of the matters, and you are refraining from anything that you deem to be dubious that could possibly lead to you crossing the red line further down in history. So this wara', the author says, أن يكون ورعا يمنعه الورع من التعصب. This being caution has to keep the person away from ta'assub. Now the Arabic word ta'assub, it comes from asaba, it means to tie together. What is meant is ganging up. A ta'assub is like, you come together as a group and you fight as a group. In other words, you become a gang. And as we know from gang mentality, is that you rescue the person who is in your gang, whether he be right or wrong, and you fight the people who are from other gangs, whether they be right or wrong. That is what is ta'assub. So al-wara' has to be strong enough to keep this person from falling into ta'assub and hawa. Hawa being his personal inclinations. Like for example, there is this individual that disagrees with you on a number of matters, and so you are inclined to prejudice towards him. So this is a form of hawa, and the wara has to be strong enough to keep a person away from that. So now anybody who is brutally honest with himself will know that this is an extremely high level of wara that is required, because human beings are intrinsically flawed. Next one, condition number 3, أن يكون يقظا غير مغفل لئلا يغتر بظاهر حال الراوي. So he should be awake, wakeful. يعني he should be a person who is able to focus, pay attention. He should not be somebody who is mughaffal. Mughaffal means dupe, but let me explain a bit more. Mughaffal comes from the word ghafla, which means heedlessness, distraction, etc. Mughaffal is a person who is made to be distracted. In other words, people manage to distract him from the matters he's supposed to pay attention to. In other words, they're laughing at him, they are fooling him, they're tricking him. So he has to be the kind of personality that should not be easily tricked by the crafty people who try to pull him into something which is wrong. And this لئلا يغتر بظاهر الحال. He should not be fooled by the appearances of by what's apparent from the situation or the status of the narrator, or we could say nowadays the da'i or the scholar, etc. And the last one is أن يكون عارفا بأسباب الجرح والتعديل لئلا يجرح عدلا أو يعدل من استحق الجرح. So he should know the criteria of jarh and ta'dil, so that he does not make jarh of somebody who does not deserve so, nor ta'dil of somebody who deserves to be made jarh of. So I would like to attract your attention specifically on these 2 points here. The fact that one has to be cautious, fearful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in these matters. Secondly, awake. Be not easy to dupe or trick by crafty people. Now, you have to understand that matters of jarh wa ta'dil are not rulings that are based from the text from the Quran and the Sunnah. What do I mean? If you go to a matter of aqidah, you have an ayah from the Quran, a hadith from the Prophet ﷺ, sayings from the Sahaba that will clarify some details about that matter, and based on that you will make a judgment. In matters of fiqh, likewise, you might have an ayah from the Quran or a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, or a narration that a Sahaba did it this way, another Sahaba did it that way, and these texts, these athar, they enable you to make a ruling, a judgment on a matter, whether this is halal, haram, wajib, mustahab, makruh, etc. However, when it comes to ruling on fulan, who lives in the 2nd century after Hijrah, or in 2020, 1400 something years after Hijrah, there is no text from the Quran or the Sunnah or saying of the Sahaba concerning this individual. It is strictly your ruling on this individual. And this is the greatest problem with this matter of jarh wa ta'dil, is that human subjectivity and human flaw kicks in full power. And we shall see further on along the book to what extent this is a problem in this particular science, and how the A'imma have dealt with it in order to make sure that they keep our Sharia clean from any kind of mixing up in such matters. So the next matter that we need to look at is the different types of jarh. There are 2 types of jarh. There is one which is mubham, which means vague, and another one which is mufassar, which means detailed. Now, what is a jarh mubham? For example, if an imam says fulan narrator da'if or matruk, he is weak or he has to be abandoned. This is a form of ibham. It's vague. All right, why does he have to be abandoned? Why do you deem him to be weak? There is nothing behind it. However, mufassar, it can be enough to say that fulan qadari, fulan takallama fil qadar, or fulan yara sayf, right? He is from the qadariyya, or he is from the khawarij. That alone is a clarification on the reason why this imam has deemed this particular narrator to be cancelled. And now we're going to look at why this is important. The next topic that the author discusses after looking at the conditions of the person who is doing jarh wa ta'dil, he says قبول الجرح والتعديل مفسرين أو مبهمين. Do we accept jarh and ta'dil, be they vague or explicit? So he says المراد بتفسير الجرح والتعديل وبيان أسبابهما والمراد بإبهامهما عدم بيان الأسباب. وقد اختلف العلماء في اشتراط تفسير الجرح والتعديل على 5 أقوال. So he says that what we mean by this is that, do we accept a jarh and a ta'dil without clarifying its underlying causes or not? And the ulama have differed on 5 different opinions upon the matter, and we're just going to look at the main one. Madhabul Jumhur. Most of the scholars, they believe the following. يقبل التعديل مبهما ولا يقبل الجرح إلا مفسرا. Is that ta'dil, the recommendation, or the claiming that this person is reliable, is accepted in a vague fashion. It's sufficient for you to say fulanun thiqa, fulan is reliable, fulanun adal, right? That is sufficient. However, when it comes to jarh, most scholars, not all the scholars, most scholars believe that for the jarh we need a detailed clarification on the reason why this person has to be abandoned. So the author says, and there are mainly 2 reasons for this. أن أسباب التعديل كثيرة جدا يثقل ذكرها. The reason for a person to be reliable are numerous, and it would be extremely difficult for every imam to mention all the reasons behind a person being reliable. Yes, Fulan, he studied under Sheikh Fulan and Sheikh Alan, and he has studied these books, and he has recited all these mutun, and he has been tested on all these ahadith, and we have observed him all these years, and blah 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 blah. Imagine the A'imma having to do that for every single reliable person that is calling to Allah in one or another. We wouldn't finish with it. However, and the second matter, so that is for the ta'dil. وَلِاخْتِلَافِ النَّاسِ فِي مُوجِبِ الْجَرْحِ. Because the scholars have disagreed about the matters that make a jarh impending upon a person. So the reasons for making a jarh, these are matters which are not agreed upon amongst the a'imma. Right? So we have seen previously that there are a number of causes for making a jarh. Now the details of each one of these causes, as we have said in the previous lesson, these are not agreed upon. So he says, فَرُبَّمَا أَطْلَقَ أَحَدُهُمُ الْجَرْحِ بِنَاءً عَلَى أَمْرٍ اعْتَقَدَهُ جَرْحًا وَلَيْسَ بِجَرْحٍ فِي نَفْسِ الْأَمْرِ لا سيما إذا كان الإمام متشددا متعنتا يجرح الراوي بما لا يكون قدحا عند غيره فبيان السبب مزيل لهذا الاحتمال ومظهر لكونه قادحا أو غير قادح. So he says that, for verily one might make jarh of somebody else based on a matter that he personally believes to be a matter deserving jarh, a matter that corrupts this person's accuracy or integrity. However, other people don't agree with him on this. And then listen well, and this is especially the case if this imam is mutashaddid muta'annid, is harsh, and muta'annid could be translated as stubborn, right? He's like wildly onto the matter. I'm not making this up, people, all right? These are the books of Jarh wa Ta'dil, they mention this. Why? Because as I have said previously in introduction, we are dealing with human behavior, flawed human behavior. We can't just turn a blind eye to this. This is reality. So he said that this is why we have to request a tafsir. It doesn't mean that we write it off. No, we want to look into it. Let's go a bit further. Then he mentions the other positions of different scholars. And then here the author says, page 51, الضابط لطلب تفسير الجرح. So what could we mention as a rule of thumb to know when we are supposed to ask for the tafsir of the jarh? Because the author says that there is more to it. There are many cases where we accept a non-detailed, a mubham jarh. So when should we not accept a jarh that is mubham? So he says, يرد الجرح في كتب الجرح والتعديل مبهما في الغالب. In most cases we will reject any jarh that is vague. لا مناص لأخذ تلك الجروح المبهمة بالاعتبار لألا يتعطل النقاد. So we cannot accept them because else we will also discourage people from doing their work of clarifying the matters. And now it gets really important. ولكن يتأكد طلب تفسير الجرح حيث توجد قرينة داعية إليه. And it becomes, or there is emphasis on looking for the clarification and the details of the jarh whenever we have an indicator, a clue that shows us that we need to do more research. كما قال عبد الوهاب بن علي السبكي لا نطلب التفسير من كل أحد. So a Subki, who is a reference, he's somebody who has major issues, but he's a reference when it comes to matters of mustalah, jarh wa ta'dil, and matters linked to the تصحيح الأحاديث. لا نطلب التفسير من كل أحد. We do not ask the details from anybody in any case. بل إنما نطلبه حيث يحتمل الحال شكا. We ask for it whenever there could be a doubtful matter involved. إما لاختلاف في الاجتهاد. Either because there is a different way in, or there is a disagreement in their ijtihad that they make, because jarh wa ta'dil are ijtihadi matters, as I have explained to you before. They're not matters based upon text. You are judging human beings based on your vision of things. أو لتهمة يسيرة في الجارح. So it's either because we are looking at the different types of ijtihad that can be in the matter, or that there is a slight suspicion about the person doing the jarh. Suspicion at what level? One of these two levels here. Either that he has personal issues with that particular individual, and there shall be more about this in the book, or that he has been duped about this individual, fooled into making jarh of him because of personal matters, politics, etc. Again, people, I'm not making this up, right? These are the books that the ummah relies on when it comes down to these matters. We shall stop here, inshallah ta'ala, for this particular lesson. And in the next lesson, we're going to go in the real hardcore buzz on this matter, which is ta'arudul jarh wa ta'dil. It's when we have a qawl of jarh conflicting with the qawl of ta'dil, which these fitan that are out there nowadays are all about. So stay tuned. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.